Welcome to the Think Bigger Mastermind, where Steve Yeager and Justin Stoddart interview the best and brightest minds in business and real estate. Their focus is helping realtors in Portland, Oregon solve the industry's biggest problems, enabling listeners to take their individual businesses to the next level. And don't forget to subscribe to get their most current episodes.
And we're live. Welcome back to another episode of the Think Bigger Mastermind. I am Justin Stoddart and my co-host Steve Yeager. Steve, say hello.
Hello.
We are more than excited today to bring some fresh new content. Our aim and our focus is really to solve problems that top realtors are facing here in the Portland, Oregon market. And we're fortunate today to have on a guest. I'll introduce in just a minute, but before I do that, I'll just give a quick disclaimer that the thoughts and opinions that Steve and I will share today are ours and ours alone, and not of Old Republic Title for whom we work. So anyway, with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest speaker, who I've known on a personal level for a long time. Great individual, great family man, just someone of really, really high integrity. And on the side, he's built a fabulous business, Luxury Home Magazine, which is well known throughout the area by consumers and businesses alike. Emile Bonfiglio. And Emile, if I butcher your name, shame on me because I've known you too long to do that. So please feel free to correct me.
No, you did an awesome job. Yeah, you did perfect. Most people don't get that well.
I even threw in a bit of an accent just to feel like I was foreign.
I like that.
So anyway, today, again, excited to introduce you. Maybe I'll give you just a second to kind of introduce yourself. Obviously, you built a great business. Everybody in town knows who you are, knows who your magazine is at least. And give us a little bit of background about you, how you got started, and then we'll get into some of the kind of more content questions.
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to speak with both you guys and the audience that's listening. Just so you know, the opinions that I express are not only mine, but also the ones of Luxury Home Magazine, and so we stand by what we say, and hopefully you take something away from this. So, before Luxury Home Magazine, real estate's always been in my blood. I was raised in the early 80s walking through offices like Lute Snyder, Cronin and Kaplan, Stan Wiley, as both of my parents, in addition to being educators, were also real estate agents. And then at some point in the late 80s, my mom decided that she wanted to take on real estate as a full-time career. And so from that point, every spring break, every weekend, I spent in open houses and touring model homes, and so real estate's been in my blood since my beginning. In 2004, after working at a number of advertising agencies in the area, I decided that I wanted to kind of switch my focus and get into the industry that was surrounding me, and so I had an opportunity to partner with a gentleman who had been doing a number of other real estate magazines in the area, and together we started Luxury Home Magazine. We started that in 2004. It was based out of Westland, Oregon. We operated it for about 7 or 8 months, and then he decided that he was going to move to Sacramento, California, and open up a second one of these Luxury Home Magazines based on the success that we were having here. We then continued on kind of a trend of opening markets and magazines across the country. Our third magazine that we opened was Hawaii, and then we continued on a very steady pace. Right now we have 23 magazines across the country, from coast to coast, from Hawaii to Charleston, South Carolina, from Sarasota, Florida to Seattle. So we really cover the entire country, and we're now the largest publisher of luxury real estate magazines in the country. And we actually hit that mark a number of years ago, but our empire just keeps continuing to grow, and so we have an opportunity to see a lot of experience and interactions with agents from across the country, and so hopefully I'll be able to share some of that value and some of that insight today.
Very cool, love it. I had no idea. I knew you guys were big and had a great presence here locally in a few other markets. I didn't realize how far-reaching your empire was. That's exciting.
Hey, Bill. You talked about being in 23 different locations. Where are the next locations you're looking for? What would you like to see this thing grow to?
Well, so what's interesting about our magazine is that we're a market-specific magazine. So we focus in on a certain geography or a region, and we don't expand outside of that. Oregon's a little bit unique because we cover from the Portland metro area a little bit into obviously in the Southwest Washington. We cover the Oregon coast and then also Central Oregon because that's a second home market for people that live in the Portland metro area. What we see is a couple opportunities of growth. There's about 85 markets that we've identified that we feel that could sustain a luxury home magazine product. And in some areas, luxury is defined very differently. Even in Portland, Oregon, what's a luxury home in Lake Oswego is a super luxury home in Gresham, Oregon. But a $600,000 home in Gresham, Oregon would be $1.2 million house in Lake Oswego. And so luxury is hard to define based solely on price. You have to look at amenities and neighborhoods, characteristics of the home. And so as we look at different markets around the country, someone may look at a market like Stockton, California, and say, there's no luxury there. Well, that's not true. There's not luxury compared to what you and I might say luxury is, but within every market there is a segment of luxury that exists, and there's agents that serve that. And so, we want to be able to provide that need and fill that gap for them. But I will say this, we do have 3 cities right now that we're in the process of launching that are top-notch, $1 million listing on Bravo type cities that will be some of the largest magazines in our system.
So, similar background. My previous life, as you know, Emile, I was a high-end home builder. So I have a bit of a heart for those kind of projects as well. I got into the construction industry directly into that market. I went to work for a high-end home builder. So that's all I really knew. And it's a fun market to be in. I'll say that there's different needs and concerns that the clients have. And I always said it was really fun to spend that kind of money when it wasn't my own. And it's fun to be a part of those projects. And I'm sure for you, seeing these new ads come in all the time, advertising these massive projects is probably kind of a blast for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's really cool. We get to work with agents that represent the who's who of society. And so, we have those opportunities to find out about, homes that are coming on the market before they come on the market. There was a house last year that came on the market. I saw the ad coming into the magazine. I knew the owner of the property. And my initial thought was, why is that person selling their house? That doesn't make any sense. It's one of the nicest, if not the nicest home in Portland. And then the real estate agent called me and said, hey, you know what? We might have an issue here. He goes, this company is being bought by Berkshire Hathaway, and I think people are going to think that because the owner is selling his house, that there's a connection to the company here, so we may not be able to run the advertisement. And it was kind of neat to see that, before it broke on, Forbes or the Wall Street Journal 3 days later, we had that insight to what was going on. So we come across some unique circumstances like that. Athletes that are moving into town. I knew probably 8 months before anybody else that Kevin Pritchard wasn't going to be rehired by the Blazers as their general manager because his house was secretly on the market, and he had no intention of staying in Portland. So we get to see some neat things like that, and get into kind of some of the gossip of the industry, which is fun.
Very interesting. One of the problems that I'd love to have you help us solve. I want to give maybe a quick illustration that I often share in a class that Steve and I actually co-teach sometimes or teach individually, and it's really kind of the helping people navigate this new world where millennials are really coming in, and there's a big emphasis on not just the digital world, but on so much content out there. And I think this illustration really kind of hit home to me when the co-founder of Google, Larry Page, did this illustration. He said, if this stack of paper on the desk right here illustrated all the amount of knowledge that had been documented from the beginning of recorded time up until 2003, he kind of gave this illustration. He said, we're recreating that much content now every day. And so it seems like agents in today's world, where they're trying to get the attention of their audience and keep the attention of their audience, there needs to be a strategy in place on how to do that, because people are inundated with so much noise, so much stuff. How do you help people solve that, to really create a brand that helps kind of trump that that dilemma?
Yeah, well, I think, the first thing is that as real estate agents, it's very tempting to want to jump onto the new hot thing. And whatever that happens to be at the moment, let's say it's QR codes, let's say that it's 3D home tours, Matterport tours, whatever it is, there's this constant pressure to try and move to the next and best thing. Because you've got so much competition around you. You've got, in the Portland market, 10,000 plus agents that all have access to the same marketing strategies, more or less, that you have available to you. What I see in trying to decipher through the clutter is consistency. I think it doesn't always matter what you do as long as you're consistent in why you do it. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and so I don't think any marketing vehicle, us included, could sit there and say we're the end-all, be-all, only source for providing you an avenue to get to a certain point in your career. But whatever you decide to do, you should be consistent with it. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I see agents do, is that they jump around from, this month I'm investing heavily in online advertising. The next month I'm going to do local print. The next month after that, I'm going to spend a majority of my money based on referral gifts and past clients, and there's just no consistency there. And so I would say that's the biggest problem that face real estate agents today in terms of branding themselves, is finding a consistent way to promote themselves and their services. Because someone who's in the home buying process, they may only buy a home once every 7 or 8 years. So if you decide that you're going to take some of your money and some of your efforts and focus it into one particular area, you may be missing that person completely. And then all of a sudden, when their opportunity comes to pick an agent, they haven't heard from you, they haven't seen from you, and it's been a number of times, versus the other agents that are always kind of in their face, not overbearing, but just their presence is there, people know they're available, they've established a brand of accessibility, and that tends to be what loses people a lot of clients. And I hear that all the time from agents, where they're like, oh man, I had this client, I've sold them 3 houses, and then all of a sudden they went with somebody else, and I don't know what happened. And you can ask them, well, when's the last time you talked to them? Well, 7 years ago. Okay, they probably met another real estate agent along the way. I think the average is that most people know 6 real estate agents within their circle or their sphere of contacts. So, that's what I would go back to, is consistency in whatever you do.
Emile, we talked a little bit off air about consistency, and the question I had for you is, there were some tough times in the real estate world. I think everyone knows that. In 2008, even through 2012, 13, I asked, you guys stayed consistent through that, right? You guys were still there. I would imagine that you had some of your clients, and that's what I asked you, that decided, hey, this is what's going to be cut out of my budget as I'm trying to just make it month to month, as opposed to spend a number of X dollars on advertising. And you said something kind of fascinating about your clients that did stay the course and that consistency.
Yeah, so we had, our magazine at one point was, 128 pages in 2006. And it was, a fascinating time to be involved in luxury real estate. That was the only thing people were building. If there was a lot available, a person was putting $1 million home on it. They could get cheap interest rates to build it, and somebody was going to buy it and hope to flip it. And so, we were going through this rapid expansion time. And then 2007, 2008 happened, and like you said, it was like our knees got kicked out from underneath us. And we saw a lot of those peripheral clients, people that weren't necessarily in the luxury end of the market, really dissipate. And our page count dropped pretty significantly. But what was interesting is that we never lost our core group of advertisers. We had about 24 to 36 clients that were just consistently with us and believing in what we did. Because when that time came, and I think this is an important principle, we never changed what we did. We never lowered our print cut or our print amount. We never cut our mailing list. We never decreased the quality of our magazine. Times got leaner, but we still were consistent in how we were presenting ourselves, which in turn was how our clients were being represented. And so our clients liked the fact that there was still this quality magazine and an online presence that was really driving them results, giving them a presence, giving them a voice in the market that they wanted to be in. And they stuck with us because they knew that this is a cyclical thing. Many of these agents were seasoned agents, and so they knew, hey, this is going to be just a valley, in the cycle of the real estate market, and we will come out of this. By about 2011, maybe it felt like we were never going to come out of this, but eventually we did. And what was interesting is that those agents that stayed consistent with us, and again, I won't take credit for everything, but they're consistent in what they do. They saw an increasingly large uptick in their business to the point where they started to acquire so many listings that I don't think they could service now. And that's kind of that natural cycle that you see, is that some of those agents get so many listings, they then can't service them. Customers then say, hey, you know what, it's a great person, but I want someone with a little bit more one-on-one attention, and then the playing fields tend to level out, and that's when the amount of luxury listings tends to get dispersed among the rest of the community. But it was definitely those agents that stayed consistent, that had a business plan, that knew what they wanted to execute, and did it. And I had agents call me up years later and say, I really regret not sticking in your magazine, because those people that did stay in the magazine, they're out golfing right now, and I'm out here hustling trying to sell homes. And I wish I would have just done what they did.
So I took two things from that, and I really, really like that. I appreciate that, the honesty there. First, for the real estate agents that are running their businesses, to take what you guys did, you didn't change the quality of the work, but you had to get real and get right and get lean in your own business. You had to face reality of what the market was doing. It was shifting. It was changing, and you couldn't go out and run the business the exact same way as you had been in 2005, 2006, when you said you were getting, 126?
Yeah.
You couldn't do that anymore, so you had to shift, but it doesn't mean that the end product can be any less dynamic. So with the real estate agents, as they see a shift, because, hey, we all know this market is going to shift at some point. It's not going to be like it is on March 4th, 2016 forever. It's important. Their clients don't want any less quality. They're, the buyers and the sellers, but they might have to get real and get right and make their business leaner and be smarter in order to do it. Now, being lean and being smart doesn't mean cutting out activities that is going to bring you more business or helps you do what you're going to do, such as advertising. There's a certain. I think that one of the reasons I brought that up is because I think people believe, okay, times are getting tough, I got to cut out everything that's expensive. Well, okay, not everything. There's something that's an expensive $100, and then there's such thing as a cheap $1,000, right? It's what value you're getting out of it. So that was the first point I took from Matt. And the second point, which I really, really liked, is the clients that stuck with you, they had more foresight, they saw the future better, and they were able to say, hey, I know this is what this looks like right now, and it kind of feels like we're not coming out of it, but my overall goal is what I'm trying to achieve in 10 years from now, or as over a career. It's not what I'm just trying to achieve in the next 3 months.
Yeah, and to the first point you said, what I found interesting along that ways was, for us, there were things obviously that we had to scale back on within our office, and any company would do that given the way that the economy was. But our business is not built on. It's built on providing results, but we have some clients in our magazine that have never received a phone call, never sold a house from our magazine. But it's about the relationship that we have with them. And so if you're operating a business where you don't have relationships with people, when it comes time to start cutting out vendors and trimming down the people that you work with, you're going to continue to work with the people that you like. You're going to continue to work with the people that you feel have their back. And for us, when somebody calls me and says, I'd like to advertise in your magazine, I'd love to talk to them about that and to help them see the value of what we do. And I often tell them, I said, look, I don't want to just take your money and put together, 2 issues worth of advertising. I want to be working with you in 6 issues, in 6 years. I want to be a part of your team. I want to be someone that you can come to when you have questions about luxury real estate. And yeah, I work with other agents too, but I think there's a value that I can bring to you guys and to your specific situation. And so people like having somebody that's on their team, and even more so than the value that the product provides. Mm-hmm. It's one of those intangibles.
There's a thought that I'm seeing from this. It seems like, and I know realtors aren't the only ones that they're guilty of that. I'm sure we're all guilty of it to some degree. But when times are great, we tend to spend more money. In fact, Steve, it was you that went to a school auction and were surprised at the amount of money that was thrown around, which is great. You know, it's all for a good cause. But we see trends that spending tends to follow so closely, income rises, that at the end, when that shift happens, realtors, they don't have any choice. Like you said, it's either, okay, I either advertise or I pay my mortgage or I eat. Well, that's an easy decision.
So many real estate agents, what I see is they operate their business out of their personal checking account. And that is just a tragic and critically dangerous way to operate a business. It's sometimes what people default to because maybe they haven't been taught the right way to run a business, or maybe they think it's more convenient, and maybe to a certain level it is. But what I see in successful agents is agents that set a budget, but their budget is flexible. But they set a budget, they set aside funds from every transaction, and they continue to build. It doesn't mean that you always have to spend everything that you make, and that's a big problem that I see with a lot of agents. Is, you know, they sell $1 million home, they get a $30,000 commission, and they turn around and they spend it. And then all of a sudden, they've got nothing in the reserves for when that next listing comes along, and that's a dangerous precedent to get yourself into.
Now, what ends up happening is it's not that people don't want to be consistent, right? The inconsistency, I think what you said, is the enemy of greatness and of building really a great business and a great brand over time. They don't set themselves up for that because it's, the decision, it isn't, they believe that they should be advertising, but they haven't given themselves the wherewithal to be able to do it, which is detrimental to their business, obviously.
Well, and I think it comes back to, like you said, I think a lot of agents, right? We talked about the Pareto principle a little earlier, right? The 80-20 rule. I mean, you got your top 20% agents who probably are they have the tools and the skills to run a business. They're not just out there as a job, they're running a business. And I think there's a group in that 80% that would like to do that, but some of them are just missing those tools in order to do it. You know, you said it's a dangerous thing not having a business checking account. In what other business can you ever imagine somebody not having a business bank account, right? That's the kind of thing. So, the agents that I've worked with and consulted over the years, the ones that we talk about having that clear goal and that clear path, they really understand that what they're doing is they're building a business. And one of the things when you're building a business is you take some of the proceeds and you invest back into that business. Like you said, you grow it. The people that are understanding it get that. The people that don't, they spend every cent they have and then wonder when there's an opportunity why there's no money to throw into it to help their business expand.
That's so true.
I was actually sitting with a financial planner yesterday who works with a lot of real estate agents, and he actually had to fire some certain clients because the previous year they hadn't set aside any money for taxes, and they figured out a way to kind of restructure and kind of bail them out of that situation. The next year came along, and the same thing had happened, and they'd had a great year, and they got digging into it a little bit deeper, and they'd spent I won't say the exact amount, but tens of thousands of dollars on like an engagement party for one of their kids. Not even the wedding, but the engagement party. And I think that's the tendency when income's up and revenue's up to spend it. So great principles there that you've shared. Wouldn't it be interesting to have a realtor setting aside funds to be able to fund their marketing and advertising for the next year when times are great, to where they know they can build a consistent brand for the next year. Definite mindset shift, but long-term perspective.
Well, and I think a good point to that too is also I talked to some real estate agents that they talk about their marketing budgets, and one of the words I used before was flexibility. Real estate is an interesting industry because you're selling a unique product. There's no two houses that are exactly alike. Even in a subdivision built by a builder, every house is different. The lots are different. They have different feels. And so you also don't know what your inventory level is going to be. So when I talk to an agent and they say, I've already devoted all of my marketing budget for the year, let's say they said they're going to spend $60,000 on marketing, and they say, I've already got my marketing budget spent for the year. I say, well, what happens if you pick up 20% more listings than you had the year previous? Are you then not going to add to that marketing budget? Because you're going to make 20% more income than you did the year before. And they oftentimes don't have a response for that because they've been told to be so disciplined, like Steve was saying, in setting up a budget, that then what they lose is the flexibility to be able to adapt that budget. You know, if all of a sudden you pick up a $2 million home and you had a $30,000 marketing budget for the year, you better plan on adjusting that budget because it's going to take some money to market that $2 million property. And if you're not prepared to make that kind of change, you probably shouldn't take on that listing because you're not doing yourself or your seller any justice.
I'm going to switch topics here a little bit, Emile, and then we'll wrap up. When it comes to actual branding, and maybe this consistency thread will kind of play into your answer as well, but what's the best advice that you can give to people that are really looking to create a brand? And obviously a brand is much more than just a logo, but it may start with that. But do you have any tips or advice on people that have done it really well, and to someone that isn't quite there yet or knows that they need to improve in that space, what advice or insight could you give to them?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. And you know, I have like I said, a unique perspective because I get to see agents from all over the country and how they represent themselves and how they represent their brand. The first thing I would say that is critical for an agent to do is to set up a brand around themselves. What do you want to define yourself as? What do you see your career in real estate being? Where do you see yourself working? What kind of people do you see yourself working with? What's the environment of your office going to be like? What's the culture within your employees? That's the first thing you need to figure out. Once you do that, then I think you go out and you decide how you want to portray that to the community. One of the biggest mistakes I see agents make is that they change their marketing, not just of their properties, but also of themselves based on the type of inventory that they have at the moment. You know, one minute they've got an equestrian property, so they're using cowboy fonts and dressed up in bolo ties and 10-gallon hats for their picture. The next minute they've got a very sleek contemporary penthouse down in the Pearl District, and they've got dark rimmed glasses and a really sharp looking suit. You have to be consistent, again, in who you are and what you portray. It's okay to pick up different types of properties. Most agents don't specialize solely in one area. But you need to market yourself because inventory will come and go and houses will change and the people that you work with will vary. But at the end of the day, the type of services you provide, the way you present yourself, how you represent your clients, all of those things have to be consistent. Because when you're asking somebody to refer you business, they expect the way that you treated them will be the same way that you treat their friend. And you can't vary that based on the situation. You have to be consistent in how you portray yourself. And so I see agents making that mistake all the time, and that's probably the number one thing I would correct them on. Just pick a plan and stick with it. It doesn't have to be the most creative, it doesn't have to be the most expensive, but just be consistent in it.
It really sounds like a process that will oftentimes walk agents through that are helping them, or that are working on kind of defining that, which is, tell me what you want life to ideally look like, and then who are you at the core, and what does that life look like that you ideally want to create? And then going backwards from there, what business do we need to build to help you create that life that's authentic to you, that's authentic to the life that you want to build? And then we can reverse engineer backwards to specific strategies, etc. But I appreciate you saying that. I think that really resonates, that I've seen realtors do something similar where their branding is kind of chameleon-like, really kind of fits in with where they're at the time, and so there's no long-term substance there that people can look to and refer to and see as an authority in that particular type of property. So good stuff. Steve, any final comments before we wrap up here?
No, Emile, I really appreciate you coming on today. It was awesome. I think it's great insight, and you said a lot of things, and I think when you at the surface it says, okay, here's this guy that's built this great magazine, this great vehicle for real estate agents to help advertise their property. But I think what comes out of this is you're in a similar business to the people that you serve. Each month you need to gather clients. You need to help clients get through a process, and if you're not doing that, you're not staying in business either, right? And I love the fact that the principles that you have shown over the more than a decade of staying in business is the same thing that real estate agents can hear, listen, and study. It's going to keep them in business and moving forward. So I really appreciate your insight today.
Well, look, I mean, both of us are in the business of being solution providers, and so real estate agents have a need. With us, it's for advertising and promoting a property. For you guys, it's with closings and title work. And so, we're just here to provide solutions and services to clients in a way that we feel maybe a term that Justin uses a lot is disrupt the industry. And I think, we're both very good at doing that.
Awesome. Emile, it's been a total pleasure. You're good on camera. You might be creating a luxury home TV show at some point. So appreciate you taking the time, and we'll be in touch. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.